That could be considered an endowment owned by the students. This is the students' money. This is the $48 fee. It's instructional-related activities fee. Does anybody here in the quad know what the university's endowment is worth right now? Anybody? Does anybody know the university's endowment? No?
Nobody's gonna know.
$23 million. This university has $23 million that it invests. Now I'm wondering, is this money held locally? Is this money held by local banks? Is it invested locally? Or is this money invested in the foreign exchange?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, yeah, these administrators here are acting as law prevention for corporations because their jobs are put in line. And I mean, the same thing goes with, having to bow down for federal law for cannabis on this campus. Like, you're not supposed to medicate if you have a 215 and this is a state institution, so that's a massive fallacy. They've been watching to certain degrees. These cameras are all new, and then the security client, or it's a computer security agent. So you have agents like the Matrix and shit running around your computer now, or checking and taking snapshots of what you have. Right now, there's something called the North American Union. Our sovereignty has been merged with Mexico and Canada, and this has been going around. Passed the Congress, the president did himself in 2005, and then what they want to do as part of this is Security Prosperity Partnership for the Americas. They want to impose a carbon tax on everyone. So they want you to pay for carbon when it's like there's deforestation of forests that they don't take into account for this glacial melting. The sun is getting hotter. There's fluctuation in solar activity. So the sun's getting hotter and the polar ice caps on Mars are melting, for God's sakes. So, is our CO2 causing that? And it really is. CO2 so bad. I mean, it's what plants breathe, for God's sakes. You got mercury you spew, lead, phosphorus, all these different toxic elements and dyes, and we export labor and processing and production all overseas because it's cheaper to exploit other people's environments and people that get paid less. And it's all neocolonialism because we've destroyed and ruined these countries internally in so many ways so we can more easily exploit them. And then so now, they're telling you that you got to pay for how much carbon you use when there's way more at hand. First, the carbon is, this Focus the Nation thing. Check out my Indoctrinate the Nation piece in the Lumberjack from this last week. They want you to focus on carbon, and carbon is so irrelevant. Really, it's just something they want to measure. That everybody has a carbon footprint, and that they want to charge you for it. And so Barack Obama just pushed this. He's part of something called the Council on Foreign Relations. Council on Foreign Relations is ridiculous. And Barack Obama, his foreign policy advisor, helped start the Trilateral Commission that wants to split the world into 3 pieces. And people that call people douchebags without having a real friggin' conversation don't know anything, and they're just ignorant haters. So whatever. And they spread CFLs. Yeah, put your earphones back in and spread CFLs on campus. They got these carbon fluorescent light bulbs you may have seen. They've got lead, phosphorus, mercury. There's nowhere you can dispose of the waste. There's a lady giving a $2,000 bill for breaking one in her house and reporting it to the authorities in Maine. You can look that up. And they want to charge you for your carbon, and then they say these CFLs are supposed to be a solution. Well, the CFLs aren't a solution because they're toxic, they're polluted. 80% of them are made in China. The reason why they're being made is it's taxpayer dollars going into the green movement and these bullshit solutions. And we got to really realize is that government isn't going to help us. They haven't been doing anything for us in the first place. And Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, give me a break, dude. Don't believe Al Gore. He ran against Bush in 2000 and gave up. He was a lame duck. He helped impose the Bush presidency. He let the Supreme Court pick him, and he didn't raise a fight. He didn't do anything about it. And so this Inconvenient Truth movie, you check it out in the UK, they actually said it was propaganda because it had 9 things it wasn't even really based on. And the last point I'm going to give before I pass it off is there was 15 chapters edited from a UN document that's supposed to be the premier document about climate change and the CO2 stuff. So 15 chapters were removed, and these authors were kept on it like they helped in all these great scientists that helped write it, and they took their names, or they took their work out and they left their names in, and their work that was taken out was saying that the CO2 stuff is still not proven. And that's what that document says in UK. You can't distribute Inconvenient Truth to the schools without telling people that it's not proven yet. It's absolutely not proven. And so yeah, back to all the software stuff, they want to see everything you're doing. They're going to say it's, for virus protection. But people like me, there's this Violent Radicalization, Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act. Anybody that stands outside the box and talks about these things can be considered terrorists. You talk about the Constitution, you talk about the Bill of Rights, and the fact that we're supposed to have freedom in this country, and you can be considered an extremist. But what does Bush do, and what do all these other elitists do? They tell us, hey, we need to, spread freedom and democracy and blow up friggin' countries and then rebuild them. Who's getting paid for Reconstruction? And another thing that's interesting about all this monitoring of our software and internet and file sharing is they're putting in all these big fiber optic networks and expanding our internet usage. And what they want to do is there's branches of information technology services that are created so that they ensure that these things are used legally. And I mean, really, like, this music is ours. Freedom of speech, really. I mean, all this copywriting of software, you should pay to go see your artists in public, not like have to, you know, pay for every single song every time you listen to it and all this ridiculous stuff, and then be policed for something that's really not even an enforceable law. But that's what they're trying to change. They're going to make it they can monitor everything that you do on your computers, in your house and in campus, and they're going to collect information you on campus and then give that information to the federal government. They already do it. I've seen an FBI agent in student affairs. I got his number. You want to call him and ask him questions on what he was doing here on campus? Let me know. I'll give it to you. His name was Stuart Logan. He was from D.C. and he was here collecting information on students they could call extremists. So please be wary. This is going to be Mike. He's going to talk some more. We got a bunch of little CDs we're throwing out because they help you do file downloading and stuff, and then they want to police you at the same time.
They don't help you download files. They help you share files.
Oh yeah.
Imagine the library hiring 20 security guards and charging you for access to books, like tuition that you pay now, right? Then penalizing you for unauthorized use of copyrighted material. Get ready, middle to lower class American-born citizens enrolled in public colleges. You are becoming the economic engine for those who are willing to uphold and enforce taxation on these students. By standing up for your right to a free education makes you a corporate terrorist. Stolen music, bunk software, burned DVDs, and printed book violations will put a financial bounty on your head. I'm sure that any copyright holder is willing to pay up to 40% in collection fees for monies not paid to those who have been infringed upon. If monies due are owed in part to those who rat you out, why do you show the camera in the quad, earphones from the iPod you bought at the bookstore? Hoodies up through the quad.
Alright, cool. No, it's pretty much all we got. We're running out. If you go and throw down, and we'll go towards more media in the future. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you are relied upon as being an economic factor in everything that goes. You're supposed to be this mass consumer, all the media that you get. And I mean, for stepping outside the box, they're going to have everybody locked into it. And check out what they got in China. I guess they made horror movies are illegal, but you can, you know, they're marketing horror. I mean, you could play World of Warcraft and, you know, do all this violent, gruesome stuff, but it's because you're paying for it and you got an account. But I mean, you can't be charged every time you watch like a movie. So I mean, these are these kind of things. They're limiting your amounts of entertainment, and they're forcing you to rely upon them, the establishment and the elitists. And they want you to spend all your money through them, and anything that goes around them, they're gonna destroy you for it. They can take away your ability to get an education. That's what they're trying to do to me. I might get expelled. And they don't even have proof. So I mean, I don't know how like serious off of a limb they're going to go. But they say it's pretty much circumstantial evidence. They say we have a preponderance of evidence. And my conversation when they were investigating me went from, first it was like, you know, this could be a serious issue, Jason. And then it went to, you know, it's possible that you could get charged, or it's very likely you're going to get charged, or we're going to get your ass. And then I just got a letter in the mail the other day. So I mean, basically they're trying to get rid of students that first like stir shit up, and then also they're going to monitor you for your file sharing capabilities and everything like that, and what you have on your computer. And so, I mean, if you're up to anything, you don't want them to know. They're already checking your email. I've had a protest that it was, we were protesting a meeting last year in the spring, and it was canceled. The meeting was canceled. We didn't know it. And then they had cops walking around. And then they had a video camera set up, and they were videotaping me and the kids that were protesting with a sign. And then they told me a week and a half later, after Virginia Tech happened, I better watch myself, and that this campus, somebody said that I was a threat that day, and what do you know, I showed up. Well, what the hell kind of logic is that? I love this school, I love education, I love this country, and I want everybody to be free, and I want everybody to have access to knowledge, and be aware of the oppression that we're all under, because there's lots of layers of this shit, and until you start really picking through, you know, all this blanket of oppression, you're not going to have any idea, or you're not going to be able to take any control over it.
Just got here to the quad. I'm Mike Hamanaka. I'm a business major here at HSU. This is my second semester at the school, and I found myself active in student government and on various committees. I've become aware of budget problems since I was a student at CR. I have to admit that public perception is easy to create when the facts are not considered or known. In a public infrastructure, the most important topic for the leaders is to suppress the known value of available funds. While less funds are spent, endowments grow, reserves stay stagnant, and you're threatened with a use it or lose it budget. From a financial leadership standpoint, the university would be much better off canceling your program rather than saving it with the interest earnings on the endowment, which was 15% last year on the $23 million. In this article, which I was going to send to the lumberjack, but was apparently too long, I'm going to correlate the budget problem to earphones from your iPod. If you're just joining us here in the quad, please put your hoodies up. Do not show the camera the earphones from the iPod that you bought at the bookstore.
Today's President's Day, by the way. If you go back in history and they saw the shit that's going on in this country, they would be disgusted. Seriously. Here's a couple quotes. Let me pick a good one out. I have not observed men's honesty to increase their riches. What does that say? They're not going to be honest, they're going to be subversive. You got to have an upper hand. Secrets are like gems. And when you have the ability to surveil everybody and get an edge over them, and you don't have any privacy, and what are you going to be able to do? Especially if you want a dissent like this. I mean, Mike today, he called UPD because he was like, hey, I don't know if some people will be pissed off about what I have to say about the spouse sharing. Maybe I'll piss somebody off. And he said, we might want some cops there to watch, make sure. He actually was asking for police protection. I come out here and I talk shit, and the cops are like up here watching me. We ask for them to come out, and they don't come. They're probably sitting somewhere, though. I'm sure they're watching. But, they're definitely down to see everything you do. And they got cameras, so they can just sit in the comfort of their office and have assholes around the corners ready to shit on everything that we do. That's pretty much the way it goes. Think about it. It's a system of exploitation. And, you're at this school, and this school basically is here to teach you to accommodate and acclimate yourself to hierarchical structures, to get used to giving away your power and to compromising. That's what they want, because they're going to give you this little piece of paper that says you did a good job. And if you stand outside the box too much, they're going to take that ability for you to get a piece of paper away. Unless you're like rich as hell and you can pay your own tuition, that's one thing. But they could just completely oust you. And you can't get a degree. And so they're filtering through here. And so don't let this education system, make you like them. Don't be like them. That's the last thing that we need. And there's something else called the Military Commissions Act, and it allows you to be kidnapped, you can be sent to prisons, tortured, and even executed, and nobody has to know. This has happened in this country. And so, like I said, talking about freedom, democracy, and the Constitution is a prerequisite for being a terrorist. And they rely on us. So, if you're good and you just consume media and you don't buck the system, then that's like the perfect little sheeple person that they want, going with the flock. And then when you stand outside the box and you make people wear this stuff and all this copyright law stuff and then invasive privacy right violations and destruction of our civil rights. This is a free speech zone on campus. How do you have a zone in a 1 hour block? How do you zone freedom? It's a paradox. It doesn't make any damn sense. And, we try and get extended hours here, and what they do, they say, oh, you're going to disrupt the classrooms, the ones that we're cutting and consolidating and not paying the teachers. This administration's had 50% raises in the state, in the CSU system, and they continue to go up. And, we don't know anything about what they're doing and what kind of accounts they have set up. For all we know, they have, secret accounts set up and shadow employees, and every time they get raises, they're giving raises to all these accounts, and they're taking and milking all this money. Our economy's in the shitter right now, and it's like, they could be getting thrown a life raft. And that's basically what it is. They're getting rewarded for their cronyism and going along, and they're consenting with this new world order. And I'm going to talk for a second about the guy that heads the CSU. His name's Chancellor Reed. He's been in CFR for 21 years. Barack Obama's been in CFR for quite some time. Council on Foreign Relations wants a one-world government. They want to destroy this country, and they want to merge us all. And the Rockefellers, like David Rockefeller, says he wants to destroy this country. And they want cataclysmic events like 9/11. They use terrorist attacks and state-sponsored terror, and even MK Ultra to some degrees. Look at our society. It's sick. And people that, don't get it, and it doesn't make sense to them, and they get frustrated, and then they're ignored, and they're cast off to the side. Their mental problems fester, and then they go crazy like that kid over in Louisiana the other day that was firing on campus and stuff, and these kind of incidents. Was it that person's fault, or is he a product of his environment? And we're trying to expose, how everybody's being brainwashed, and you're all trying to have all this violent, crappy media pushed upon you. Look at movies today. They're like formulated crap. It's just like this churning gear of garbage that keeps going and going. And that's why there's all this crap out there to distract you. And think about how much time you'd spend, like someone who plays World of Warcraft. They learned about our Constitution and the history of this country. But they don't want that. They want you to be ignorant and your mind to be malleable and like clay so they can screw you.
Yeah, it's a really simple formula that they have set up. Trilateral Commission, CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, these are all political and economic think tanks set up by the elites of the civilized, industrialized world. And basically the plan is to consolidate all their economic interests under one one household, one system, so that when political and economic dissent rises up, they can crush it quicker. And we see this happening with Halliburton just moved to the United Arab Emirates, so they don't have to pay American taxes anymore. I got this great quotation by Dwight D. Eisenhower from 1953, and he was very critical of the military-industrial complex and what, I mean, he was, of course, the five-star general in World War II who took us through that. And he says that every gun that is fired, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. The world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, and the hopes of its children. So these elite people who are in control of governments around the world use the rest of the population to fuel their own personal gains. Dwight Eisenhower also says, "May we never confuse honest dissent with disloyal subversion," and that was from 1954. So this is a warning to us to be careful how we judge people, how we look at political movements, because in most of the rest of the world, if you have something bad to say against the government, they just send a squad car out, or really a paddy wagon to come pick you up, and most people never hear about you again. We see this in right-wing dictatorships around the world. The Madres de la Plaza Mayor in Argentina are these old ladies who walk around the plaza every Monday night to recognize their children that were lost during the Pinochet dictatorship, who was installed by the United States. Man, these leaders that we've had, today's President's Day, so we should go and pick a president, go look him up, see what he was all about, because we've got some great leaders in our time. John F. Kennedy said that conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. So let's be very careful when we conform to other people's standards, to other people's beliefs. When we listen to the one-liners that they repeat to us over and over on CNN and Fox and all these so-called liberal media outlets, which are corporatized media, which, if you believe anything that they say, then I got seafront property in North Dakota I want you to come look at. Who says this? Dwight Eisenhower again, he's the man. "Politics ought to be the part-time profession of every citizen who would protect the rights and privileges of free people and who would preserve what is good and fruitful in our national heritage." So we got to take it upon ourselves to be active in our government, whether that be local government, state government, national government, student government, all these areas that we have the power to, communicate our own ideas and our own beliefs into what we see and realize every day. So, Thomas Jefferson's probably one of the greatest presidents we ever had. And he said that we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal and independent, that from that equal creation they derive rights inherent and inalienable, among which are the preservation of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we all had to memorize that as children because it's the preamble to or it's not actually, it's part of the Declaration of Independence. But we also have to notice that why didn't that get included in the U.S. Constitution? The Declaration of Independence is just a philosophical treatise that some people wrote when they wanted to get people riled up. But when they actually implemented it into Congress, the Continental Congress that wrote the Constitution in 1787 had convened under secret, and the populace was not allowed to participate in. And that's why we didn't get that nice little line from Thomas Jefferson being included in the Constitution, because it doesn't really consider that very important. We had to add the Bill of Rights later because of what was lacking in the original Constitution. He also says that if there be one principle more deeply rooted than any other in the mind of every American, is that we should have nothing to do with conquest. It says a lot about the way that our government's been spending money over the last 50, 60 years. Ever since we won World War II, we've kind of been like the head honchos on this planet. And it's important to realize it's not in our best interest to go do these things. In fact, it instills hatred among the rest of the world for what the American machine has been doing for so long. And we have to realize that these conquests in other parts of the world are based solely on monetary profit, nothing else. They're not really interested in women's rights or in the people's ability to have free elections and such. It's all about oil. It's all about controlling people. It's all about slave labor.
HSU Geographic Society.
Copyright
Copyright enforcement, carbon taxation, which is something everybody should look up to. Jefferson also said that peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. So we have to be careful about the things that we get dragged into as a result of our economic connections with other countries. This is why, like, Israel is the most heavily armed country in the Middle East. And yet we consider Iran and Syria to be the biggest threats to freedom.
Yeah, that is a separate one, but I'll tell my deep reporter.
Yeah, I'd like to go on that. I'm the one.
James Madison said that there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments of those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations. So we have this technique of incrementalism that they've been using for a very long time, which is no surprise. They take away our freedoms little by little, chunk by chunk. Instead of just slapping us in the handcuffs and dragging us away right now, they pass little tiny laws that'll help them get it done quicker in the future.
It's like, well, how ludicrous is that? And then, like, was that sign allowed up because the university?
So does everybody know what the fee is or the fine is for stolen music? That's $750 per song and $9,000 per track. Does anybody in any of these buildings
power of choice and reforming oppressive laws that aren't enforceable
have anything to do with any of that money?
So yeah, we got to be careful about, you know, what is illegal, what can we get chapped for, and why are these things being made illegal? We mentioned the Military Commissions Act earlier. That was passed in October of 2006. Which basically removed habeas corpus from the Constitution if you are declared a enemy combatant, which the terminology for enemy combatant is very, very broad. Just committing a felony can sometimes be considered the acts of an enemy combatant. And basically what happens to you if you are declared an enemy combatant by the United States, regardless of whether or not you're a United States citizen, is that you're carted off to a secret prison without the press being notified, which are the only people who are going to really care about you at that point. And they are allowed to use enhanced interrogation techniques on you. And, you know, there's that old line from Reservoir Dogs when they're cutting the guy's ear off, you know? It's like if he says he caused the Chicago fire, it doesn't mean he did it. People who admit things under torture aren't admitting anything. They're simply crying mercy. They'll say anything to stop it. So we got to be very careful about what we let our government do to people. The most recent person that I can think of is this guy Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's on trial in Guantanamo Bay right now. And he was connected to the 9/11 attacks. There's no question about it. We're not debating that. He gave money to Mohammed Atta and the other 15 Saudi hijackers. But the money that he gave to them, the $100,000, came from the ISI, which is Pakistan's intelligence wing. It's basically Pakistan's CIA. That's a documented fact. The London Guardian reported about that back in 2004. So we've got him in custody right now. He's not being allowed to contact any lawyers or have any sort of defense for him in the military trial, which we have nothing to stop because it is a military trial, of course. But the very fact that the court, his case is being held entirely in secret with no one being able to see makes me very suspicious, you know? If they've got hard proof evidence that this guy was involved in 9/11, they should be able to have a public, you know, court case where if we don't allow to participate, at least we're allowed to hear what's going on in it. So we got to be very careful about what people, the kind of laws that people pass and what they're trying to prosecute people for. Woodrow Wilson said that liberty has never come from the government. Liberty has always come from the subjects of it. The history of liberty is the history of resistance. And John Quincy Adams says that you should always vote for principle. Though you may vote alone, you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. So we've got this whole mentality in our system that we should stand up even if we're the only ones standing alone. But it's very little put into practice because of the fear that's been spread to us over the last decade since 9/11. We got to be very careful that we don't let the fear turn us into a fear-based state. We can't be ratting each other out for every little thing that we hear. We can't be suspicious that you know, that weird quiet guy in class is going to come do something, and I'm sorry to even bring that up, and you know what happened very recently, but that's the way it goes. Robo was targeted for being a threatening person right after Virginia Tech. I remember that, and it was probably because he had an oversized backpack where he put all his papers and books in. So we got to be really careful about jumping on the bandwagon. You know, we got George Orwell who warned us about the 2 minutes hate, you know. Like, we're going to crucify somebody, doesn't matter what they are, who, or what they did, as long as we got somebody to direct our hate against, they can completely control our minds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they target people, and then they say, you know, it's doublespeak. They say you are the opposite of what you are. They say you're a threat. Well, I'm a threat because I'm enriching people's minds with information of the corruption at this campus and the lack of transparency and how they just step all over us. Our admission site says that we're truly a student-led campus. Well, that's a load of crap. And it also said that, you know, we value what happens outside the classroom more than inside. Well, what's happening? You know, they're cutting all of our classes and destroying our academic environment, and then they're saying that, like, we can't speak more a different hour of the day, you know, at different times at different locations on campus because it'll interrupt school function. So wear your hoodies when you're walking around and listening to music, because I mean there are people that could be watching you and documenting you and targeting you, especially if you like talk about stuff. And I'm not trying to scare you into saying, you know, don't like raise interesting points in class about 9/11 was an inside job, and then, you know, Gulf of Tonkin was a lie that started the war in Vietnam, and then, you know, a ship, the Lusitania, was sent into German waters and sunk to get us in the war in World War I, and how in World War II we knew about Pearl Harbor before it happened and allowed it, just pulled our pants down so we could get screwed by Japanese, and then we could start this massive war and dive into it head first. When for a whole time we've had stories and we knew about what was happening with the people being killed over in Germany, and people like Prescott Bush, Bush's grandfather, his family fortune comes from making money off of laundering the possessions of dead Jews. They took the teeth that were pulled out of their mouths, they took their possessions, their jewelry, and they sold it, and they ran it through the Union Banking Corporation, and the Union Banking Corporation was convicted and liquidated for the Trading with the Enemy Act, which is corporate treason. And I mean, if you're treason, you could be killed. And I mean, this is how bad that offense was. And then, I mean, think about it. If you're just like one person spying or something, and then you're giving information, that's one little amount. But if you're a whole corporate entity, giving punch cards and computers to keep track of people, the first computers were used for human population control and extermination. It's disgusting and vile. And Prescott Bush was also the treasurer of the American Birth Control League. And the American Birth Control League was the foundation for Planned Parenthood. And so when you think, you know, Planned Parenthood's helping you out, they will have that illusion, just like our government tries to perpetuate. But I mean, think about it. It's all about eugenics and population control. They want to sterilize you. Actually, the American Birth Control League, before it became Planned Parenthood, sterilized people. There are sterilization laws in this country to prevent you from having kids. If you had a friend that was in trouble, you know, you ever got in trouble with the law, you had a family member, or somebody, you know, might have had a brain disorder or like a deformity or something, to say, oh, you can't reproduce anymore. I mean, how Hitlerian is that? And he actually dedicated his work in Germany to American eugenicists, and it's really important. But yeah, I mean, think twice before, you know, you come to school and you want to get a degree, and you could potentially be targeted for your downloading and file sharing activities, and what you're doing with your computer, because this administration is loss prevention for the fascist corporate entities that we have in this country, and it's really sickening. So we need to be wary and vigilant.
I have another quote from the same Playboy March 2008 magazine. Somebody else gave me this. I didn't buy this on the internet. It says, public enemy, Tehran. That's Iran. Everyone familiar with Iran? The Iranian Ministry for Culture and Islamic Guidance announced it would crack down on increasingly popular Farsi hip-hop. The ministry will close underground studios and confront rappers inspired by the American Farsi hip-hop scene based in Los Angeles. Local producers and MCs in Iran have started to create their own music, mimicking the accent of American Farsi speakers and dealing with social, sexual, and political topics. To perform openly or sell albums in legitimate music shops, Iranian musicians need a government license. But bootleg CDs and internet distribution of songs have allowed hip-hop scene to flourish beyond the reach of officialdom. Now the government wishes to find a solution to internet distribution. On campus, we have the security agent. We also have the bookstore. Free CDs!
Yeah, and I want to bring up the point, we're not trying to scare people out listening to iPods and downloading music, because I think that's awesome. And we're not trying to say that the administration's going to come and like hunt you down and give you a huge fine just because you're listening. It's like a broken taillight. The cop's not going to pull you over until he thinks he's got a reason to, and that's going to be the reason they're going to use to pull you over or whatever.
However, university administrators have an obligation to the record labels to turn certain students in. If universities are not turning students in, then what are they doing? Are they aiding and abetting students? In fact, are they not giving them the materials that they need to share stolen music right there in the bookstore? You can even buy iPods up there. Can you believe that? Wear your hoodies in the quad.
Yeah, because today's a holiday for us.
Yeah, I know. Someone tried calling and they said that the lines were all down.
Okay, I got another good one by Jefferson. A strict observance of the written laws is doubtless one of the high virtues of a good citizen, but it is not the highest. The laws of necessity, of self-preservation, of saving our country when in danger, of higher obligation. So, basically, I gotta give the mic over. Do your responsibility as an American citizen. Look up the things that are out to vote. Be a participatory member of the society. The vote counts. Get out there. Speak your mind. Don't be afraid to be alone. Don't conform to your friends or what your family say just because you respect their opinion. Go look these things up.
What happened?
Oh,
Does everybody remember Napster? File sharing?
Yep.
And then the next we had Kazaa after that. And then we had K Plus or K++. I just want to explain a little bit why Napster failed. Napster failed because it was a centralized server. It was easy to behead the leader because all they had to do was shut off the servers and Napster died.
yeah.
Kazaa started off with advertisements. That was the only centralized part. Everything else was P2P. Napster was not P2P. Napster was person to server. P2P is person to person or peer to peer. Kazaa is peer to peer. The only centralized part they had was advertising. As soon as the K Plus came out, that was advertising free, peer to peer music file sharing. As soon as K Plus got regulated on, then a whole host of other peer to peer software applications came out. LimeWire and I don't know, anybody else? Does anybody know of any peer to peer file sharing software programs?
Fridays or Saturdays.
About, yeah.
Any others? Torrents. Torrents are huge. How about just standard hypertext transfer protocol? HTTP. How hard is it to host files and serve them? It's very easy. It's called accessing a website. Free blank CDs! Blank CDs! I bought these at the bookstore! Burn and share!
But yeah, man, this mass media system is trying to preserve and expand its market and make you enslaved to buying only their crap. And I mean, think about the mass media system. Like, I know some of y'all out there listen to some real ass good music. Like, why ain't there a fucking radio station that plays reggae anywhere? It's always like maybe a reggae hour. Like, if there was a reggae radio station, there would be a damn revolution tomorrow because it would change the consciousness of the people. The shit that's on the radio today is garbage. It's about getting drunk, getting shiny, stupid shit that's valuable because, you know, we're like high value, classy country, and it's stuff that doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter at all. Nice cars and having like these goods, and it's this hierarchical system that, you know, you're supposed to have as much as you possibly can and keep climbing this ladder. And that's what this is all about. And it's about, you know, how much money we spend on alcohol. We're a market for like mass consumption and distraction and changing our mind state. Everything's really a drug. Think about that. Like, everything you do in the very basis, there's chemical reactions being sent in your brain to make you feel certain emotions and all these things. And that's what, you know, the pharmaceutical industry's helped doing. It's like, oh shit, the population's not down for the New World Order and all this fascist crap, so we got to give you Paxil and Xanax and you know, oh shit, Prozac, Ritalin, Coca-Cola, everything is totally, but yeah, all these drugs, they want you to change your mind state and to make you happy and to make you like complacent for the New World Order and all these oppressive systems. And so they rely on you and they rely on your consumption consumption. And they can make things better for themselves if they increase how much you buy. So cracking down, for instance, on downloading activities and monitoring your files and stuff. Like you said, it's like a broken taillight. They can screw with you all the time. And so the mass media doesn't play music like Dead Prez or Jedi Mind Tricks, or it doesn't play Bob Marley, like the real stuff, you know, like they'll play like the Jammin' or whatever, but songs about rising up and destroying, you know, the systems of oppression that we have been bestowed upon us to get rid of in the Declaration of Independence. That's a great document. Read that sometime. It says, anybody whose pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, if they're being inhibited in their pursuit of these things, that they can take down that government and establish a new set of systems that does preserve those rights.
Yeah, Jefferson says, what signifies a few lives lost in a century or two? The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is in its natural manure. So it's natural for us to rebel against our governments. And if, you know, we're not talking about violent revolution, let me just like put it out there really quick so we don't get arrested. We're talking about grassroots revolution. We're talking about showing up to the polls.
You can't hear me, listen to music.
Speaking our minds. This is all about money. That's all it's about. Selling us every little bit they can. And, you know, people act like, you know, there's this huge economic crisis. It's like, well, divert some money from the defense fund then, you know. When I was in Geneva, Switzerland a few years ago, I was at the United Nations headquarters, and they had this statistic about all the money spent on defense in the year 1987. That was the year I was born. Just that 1 year spending on defense for all the countries around the world could have fed and clothed the entire world for like 300 years straight. Could have solved it. Could have solved it all right then. 1987. Didn't have to build any more nukes. Didn't have to build any more submarines. Didn't have to build any more stealth bombers, which they did have that back then. So we got to hold our, you know, governments accountable where they're putting money. You know, we pay taxes like religiously, but we don't have any way to a point where they go. Wouldn't that be something if you could turn your taxes and say, I want all my taxes to go to education this time, you know?
Yeah.
And at the Focus the Nation event, a Marine veteran in the war for oil, Iraq war veteran, I mean, we say support the troops. He came to Focus the Nation and talk about how hemp, you know, has been completely ignored and oppressed through history, and that's how we got to the state that we're in. I mean, everything would be so much better if the government never, like, illegally made hemp, you know, using a fear campaign of racism and special interest for, you know, the people that owned all the damn forests and wanted to cut it down because they had an interest in making jobs and money on it, and they could have grown hemp. And he asked a question about the Federal Reserve System, and that's why I bring this up. He asked, you know, how is the Federal Reserve System a private corporation? This is the place that prints your money, for God's sakes. There's a what? That's a college tour. No, the Federal Reserve has started the same year this university did, and they want to ensure that they control our money systems. And there's a quote from this guy, Mayor Amschel de Rothschild. Rothschilds are the richest family ever existed on this planet. Look them motherfuckers up, because you don't know about them because they don't want you to. They've written themselves out of the history book. The Rothschild families had half of the wealth in control. That's all the money ever made ever in history, like throughout the expanse of time. Think about that. How much power that could wield. You know, people are rich because they kick them down, you know, and it's kicked down through their channels. That's how they get hooked up. And I mean, there's always pools of money waiting to help make people benefit. And so my friend asked about the Federal Reserve and how it's a private corporation. And Kenny said, you know, how can we rely on our tax dollars to be returned to us by this corrupt institution that violates the Constitution? It wasn't ever really approved. It was pushed through Congress. And the IRS, for God's sakes, is based in Puerto Rico. And it's basically just a big scam. And there's a lot of corruption involved. You ask the IRS, where's the law we pay taxes with, and they say they don't have it. And that's pretty ridiculous. And so what they did is he asked this question about the Federal Reserve and how they won't give us our money back, and if they comment on it, and the radio show host guy, the moderator, said, oh, well, that's a little bit too big of a topic for us to talk about right now. And then he pushed in the next guy. And then what happened is I made a speech, and they tried to silence me because I was talking about the carbon tax is garbage, and how it's just, you know, a form of oppression. And then they tried to pull me off the mic. I physically was touching me. He has no right to do that. And it was a public forum. And then after I made my comments, one of the panelists was motivated enough that she addressed my friend Kenny's concerns about the hemp issue. She just like interjected in the middle, like, this is what you need to do to like work on this hemp thing. And so that was pretty revolutionary how that happened. And in the end, they tried to cut off the amount of people that could talk. And then we pushed them, and we got them to have them stay and to have the ability to speak their mind. So anyways, I'm going to pass it off the mic real quick.
up in the quad. Put your hoodies up while you walk through the quad. Why would you want to show that camera over there the earphones from the iPod you bought at the bookstore?
I'm just talking about the origins, like the Bush family. You know? I think Planned Parenthood could be benevolent, but
I just think that the literature nowadays, they're kind of combining
Justin, you people here in the quad, I guess I could read this again. Imagine the library hiring 20 eye-in-the-sky security guards and charging you access for books, then penalizing for your unauthorized use of copyrighted material. Get ready. Middle to lower class American-born citizens enrolled in public colleges are becoming the economic engine for those who are willing to uphold and enforce the taxation on these students. By standing up for your right to a free education makes you a corporate terrorist. Stolen music, bunk software, and burned DVDs and printed book violations will put a financial bounty on your head. I'm sure that any copyright holder is willing to pay up to 40% in collection fees for monies not paid to those who have been infringed upon. If monies due are owed in part to those who rat you out, why do you show the camera in the quad, earphones from the iPod you bought at the bookstore? Hoodies up through the quad. And why am I facing this direction? Can anybody tell me why I'm facing this direction?
He was uploading files. He does servers on campus. And they told him
Student affairs? Office?
Secures servers. So he upgraded servers and they still don't. So it's like
those are the police of the corporate terrorists that are on this campus.
Emails to everybody, and Yahoo said I reached my limit.
Hoodies up through the quad. Put your hoodies up through the quad.
I got too many people on my mailing list. I guess I can't tell.
So if there's one message you can go with today, let it be that you are the change. You know, I guess that's been touted recently by Obama or something. But no, it's seriously, like, we gotta use ourselves as the basis for change. I think it was Gandhi who said, be the change you want to see in the world. Abraham Lincoln said, let not him who is houseless pull down the house of another, but let him work diligently and build one for himself, thus by example assuring that his own shall be safe from violence when built. So part of the fundamental part of our system is that we are the foundations of the system, and the people that sit on top of us and tell us what to do because they feel like they have the right to, because we've given them so much power over the centuries, we got to let them remember that if we remove ourselves from the pyramid, the top falls and shatters. Abraham Lincoln said, and I think this is from the Gettysburg Address, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. So it's our responsibility to respect the people who volunteer to go fight for us, even if they're not completely aware of what they're doing. Many of these guys come back very disenfranchised with what the military has forced them to do over there, not to mention with the post-traumatic stress disorder that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. And this is a serious disorder that I'm very thankful that it's finally becoming brought to light more often, because these guys don't sleep for days at a time. They hear voices, they hear screams, incomprehensible things have happened to these people, and they're going to live with that the rest of their lives. So next time you see a veteran, go shake their hand, tell them, thanks for what you did, even if they're still gung-ho about it, which some of them are. It's a survival technique to be gung-ho about what you're being forced to do. Let's respect these people, and we got an obligation to make sure that we're not sending people to die in other countries far, far away where they have no business being.
Wait, let's find out. What do we want to hear about? Do we want to hear about student council? Do we want to hear about committees? Do we want to hear about budget corruption on campus? Do we want to hear about subprime mortgages? Okay, subprime first.
All right, so there's a subprime mortgage crisis right now, and it's like the corporations and the banks were able to blend insurance companies with their financial holdings, and then they were able to give out zero interest rate, housing mortgages and all sorts of loans and things like that. Now this was made under
Hoodies up to the quad.
It's the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, and it was to fix like the Citibank is massive financial corporation, right? Citibank merged with something called like Treasury, and they became like huge conglomerate. And it wasn't even legal what they did. They were legally unable to merge. And so in '99, the Clinton administration was lobbied, and they passed this act, and it repealed a law that was made after the Great Depression to prevent this kind of shit from happening, because it destabilizes, disrupts, and destroys economic stability. And there's subtler ways to maintain social control than like you would think, you know. They're going to control you in other ways. So this Glass-Steagall Act, which was made in 1933, it was basically repealing it has created the most serious fiscal crisis since the Great Depression in this country. And then, so on this thing, the subprime mortgage crisis, how do you think this is related to the downloading? Is this same act that was made, the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, was used to justify creation of information technology services monitoring on campuses. So they're saying, we're monitoring your information and collecting data on you to store with the federal government because of the same act that caused the the subprime mortgage crisis that's destroying and disrupting our economy and impoverishing America. People can't even pay for their homes right now. Subprime mortgage crisis, look it up. This guy, Robert Kuttner, Kuttner, he's the one that's gone into this about how the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, it was a piece of propaganda and cronyism for the Clinton administration.
Those of you walking through the quad, please put your hoodies up if you have earphones in your ears.
This is a little information on what
Hoodies up through the quad. You don't want to show the camera the earphones from your iPod. Your iPod could have stolen music on it. Are you aware it's $750 per song and $9,000 per track? Who's trying to turn you in for that? Does anybody know who's trying to turn you in? One-way conversation. Hey man, would you like a blank CD? I bought this at the bookstore. I want you to burn and share. Burn and share. Decentralized sharing. Don't use peer-to-peer. Use CD to person. CD to person. Pretty soon there's going to be Blu-ray. 50 gigabytes. Who's got 50 gigabytes of entertainment on their computers? Yeah, 50 gigabytes. Right here we got 700 megabytes. Burn and share.
Who can afford that $1 a track? 50 gigs of music.
Put your hoodies up through the quad.
So yeah, this information services network that makes security agents to roam your computer and see what you've got, to whatever extent we will never know. They say it's for viruses, but they also said the war in Iraq was for freedom and democracy and safety and to avenge 9/11. 9/11 was an inside job though. The administration was complicit to a large extent in these attacks. But yeah, this says that the purpose of the policy of information monitoring is to ensure that the use of the network is consistent with foregoing purpose and ensure that it can be operated reliably and lawfully. So they're doing this monitoring of your software and everything that you do on your computer because they're saying, well, we don't want our internet at our universities to go towards something that's not legal for these corporate entities that have more lobbying power at our school than people like you and me that want our education to be paid for. We want our teachers to be paid right. We want administrators to get out of here because we don't need them to administrate. We can do this on our own. We can govern this university. We've been made weak and atrophied to like exercise our ability to have political will and to dissent against these oppressive systems. And our awareness of them has been shut out. And so our ignorance is so vast. And so it takes time to start opening up and seeing what's really going on and illuminating the situation. But it's a very dark landscape. And this speech today is like a thunderclap on the dark landscape that we all exist on in this campus. But there is information control, there is corruption, there is an administration that is more receptive to corporate interests. Another thing I want to talk about is my club Normal is actually, we had our freeway sign for Adopt a Highway. And they had these guys calling me from the university without going through the clubs and activities office in the normal channels, calling the Caltrans people and saying, oh, well, it's like a PR stunt. They're not going to clean the highway. And they took our sign down because they said they didn't want to have HSU on it. So I said, well, we'll make the HSU smaller, but actually there's a Geographic Society that has a sign on the 299. They had to adopt a highway. And so the Geographic Society of HSU can have HSU on their sign, but Normal, oh, that's too controversial. Don't want to seem like the university advocates something when there's a club on campus that's doing something positive to contribute to the community. So you can see like how serious the fascism is, you know? Because I mean, they're relying on perpetuating the interests of the corporate factions, and then they want to limit what you can do. And then by limiting your freedom of speech, I mean, that's ultimate fascism. They limit what you can do and the way that you can exercise things, what you can get involved in, and then it's all for the interests of the corporations. It's just surveillance and also the drug laws. Because I mean, there's a prison, military, educational, medical, industrial complex that do exist, it's very real, and they preserve their market share, and they want to oppress you, and they rely on you for their profits.
You should ask yourself, are you a corporate terrorist? Do you have stolen music? Do you have movies? Do you have games or software? Or do you have any printed book violations? Get ready, middle to lower class American-born citizens enrolled in public colleges, especially those in California. You are the new corporate terrorist. You are the new target. By standing up for your right to a free education makes you a corporate terrorist. Stolen music, bunk software, burned DVDs, printed book violations will put a financial bounty on your head. I'm sure that the copyright holder is willing to pay up to 40% in collection fees for monies not paid to those who have been infringed upon. If monies due are owed in part to those who rat you out, why do you show the camera in the quad the earphones from your iPod you bought at the bookstore? Hoodies up through the quad. If you're walking through the quad, put your hoodie up now!
Yeah, if you got headphones, you could be considered a suspect for illegal download sharing. They'll monitor you through a security client on campus, and they will see what you're doing and what you have. Say you plug in your iPod because you want to charge it, they could get like a quick like boom, like, oh, there's all the files on there. They won't copy the actual files, but they'll get like maybe all your file information and folder information off of your thing. They say it's for virus protection, but I mean that's BS. And this same thing, this cronyism, this meeting of the corporate state, the corporations in the state, and this fascism is very real, and it permeates not just the administration but the administrative capacity even in student government on campus. Like, for example, we've got, I've been pursued for accusations that I was a drug dealer to, like, kids here for a conference, and I made speeches from the perspective of normal 911Truth and from my legislative affairs office about the importance of education and how great it is that, like, we have the power to restore our minds to awareness as to what's happening, like Martin Luther King's assassination and 9/11, and how if we continue to build foundations based upon lies, that we'll never escape that, and we need to get back to the truth, and that's what's real. But when we've got, you know, the most disturbing thing I was told when I was being pushed through this investigation and these foolish accusations that I gave CSU Northridge president like a pound of weed or something he taped to his leg and flew home with. This kid, like, I don't know what the hell he was saying this for, but these accusations were so, like, absurd. And then I was told by the president of the student body, Terra Rentz, that she wants to preserve her job opportunity in a government job because she's getting a job in Virginia soon, and that she wants to, you know, I don't know, get letters of recommendation. She said something about, if I can't keep you in line, then I'm going to deserve my employment opportunities. So that means that she was doing that for her own selfish motives and not for the motives of the student government, not because they want to preserve the integrity of our power systems. And so that's fascism permeating even your student government, and not just this administration. And she was against this administration when she ran for election, and I was too, and I remain so. But she has turned around and worked with this administration. That's unacceptable.
You want to hold that for me? We've only got just a couple minutes left here. In only a few committee meetings, I have witnessed the most incredible taxation of students. In the Student Fee Advisory Committee, 2 graduation fees were nearly doubled for those applying to graduate. And with closer inspection of the proposal, these fees were going to be used to purchase stupid shit like 20 wheelchairs to be made available for use only 1 day per year, and what appeared to me as raises for phantom employees. I've seen this phantom employee thing before on construction sites, where crew leaders will say, "Oh, I've got 5 guys," when in reality they only have 2. Main offices will send payroll checks for all the employees. On this campus, phantom employees could be considered student employees who don't do any work, and maybe they just beef up a budget with that extra pay money. I tore apart the proposed fee increase to no avail, and just so you know, Student Body President Terra Rentz voted for increase and it passed. The next Student Fee Advisory Committee was a vote that made what I will call an illegal increase for student medical policy. I suggested we call on speakerphone to be sure that Stephen Butler made a strong suggestion to disregard an increase The moratorium from Chancellor CSU stated that no student fee increases shall take place this semester or next. Last semester, a flat fee was assessed with tuition, and you were able to go to the health center for any problem with little or no fees. This semester, that is not the case. In order for the health center to gain control of a runaway budget, they are now assessing a flat fee and a la carte fees for each service. Next time you fall down the stairs and you become ill, be aware that you are expected to make payment at the time of service. See the health center website.
And just quick interjection. I was sick a few weeks ago, and I had 104 temperature, and I was really sick, and I called, and they said, oh, we don't have any more appointments. Please come in tomorrow. And I met a girl actually the next day that she was told on a Friday, come in Monday. And I mean, they don't serve you anymore. It's ridiculous. And they say it's because they can't afford it.
The same day this passed through the Student Fee Advisory Committee, the health center mounted a brand new flat screen TV on the wall near their entrance. Just be careful that you don't wait in the waiting room for a couple of hours in pain or sick, only to be prescribed a bill that will eventually cause a registration hold, then after 6 months will be sent to collection services. Yes, that means that if you got sick at school, now your credit is F. This frightening change passed right through the SBAC. As a student, you should know that Terra Rentz made a serious arguments for the increase in order to protect your legacy. Quite a disservice to students, yet quite a favor for staff. Terra, by the way, just made several hand-picked paid appointments to vacancies on the student council and the board. You know this if you were at the student council meetings. You just paid for leadership involvement. Did you know that? Shouldn't leadership involvement be of true interest rather than paid interest? We will talk about decentralization here in about a minute. The diversity program, oh no, I'm not going to talk about that one. This one's really important right here. Instructionally related activities. This is the pot of gold with a $700,000 annual and increasing budget and another $300,000 in reserves and a $15,000 current unallocated budget. First, I tried to get the motion passed for a $6 increase to the current student per diem cap at $39 a day, which has not been inflation adjusted for over 10 years. Anybody who's a student athlete or travels for any reason for the school will only be paid $39 for food and lodging, and this hasn't been increased in over 10 years. Is that enough? Is $39 enough? When the nation sends its warrior to battle, the nation should provide adequate resources or the competitors will have an advantage. Consider the next time you travel for a competition that you're being screwed out of your own fees and that possibly your successful performance is not a priority to the student affairs branch of the university. By the way, the leader of our student union, Terra Rentz, had several problems with the increase in the per diem, citing that many students pull the funds and make do. Sorry. I recommend that if your group already receives funding from the Instructional Related Activities Fund, that you should increase your request by 150% for next year. If your organization is eligible to receive these funds, but you have not applied, try asking for twice the amount that you will actually need. Why would I have aspirations of draining the Instructional Related Activities reserves? Why save this money when there is no interest earned, has no inflationary protections? In fact, the money isn't even kept locally. This money sits in a general reimbursement account in Sacramento. Heads up, local bankers, keep HSU money local, especially student fees. This is money that you pay out of your own pocket. Speaking of, I had a conversation with Richmond 2 weeks ago, and he told me that the school has a $23 million endowment, which earns 15%, earned 15% last year. That's a significant amount of money. Should the students in the local community be concerned with the amount of retained earnings the school has? Does anybody know of any programs that are being cut right now?
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
All the programs, okay. I don't think
Fiscal emergency in the state.
I don't think that that's true, but we do have money for every program. You just have to request it, and I recommend that you request it in person. Thank you for listening, and I think that clock is fast.
She's standing right there. So she's coming on right now. You want to field it? I don't either.
I don't mind that you guys come out here and say your things. You have no right to publicly take down any student here on this campus without first giving them at least due process.
We only talked about the last minutes.
What up?
That's not
we
true.
were
because
talking-
I had someone come in after 5 minutes of you guys going off on a single individual. And then
We talked about you already in the beginning.
Are you talking about one of the little green campus girls with red hair?
No, I'm talking
came by,
about
We were talking about copyright stuff.
You know what? I don't care what else you're saying. I'm simply speaking on the fact that you have no right as student leaders on this campus to talk bad about any student leader. And this happens with me, so that's why I am responding to any student leader on this campus without giving them at least the ability to come and at least view the comments that I have said. It is completely unprofessional.
I don't know, people are doing it behind doors without a mic, so.
You know what? Behind doors is one thing, but the public slander of another individual without the ability for them to respond.
It's not slander. You
is
saying what you saw at a meeting, and I said
Free
what I
speech
was
right here. I mean, this is the free
You
speech
guys
circle
are
right here.
but there's a level of respect that comes with willing to take the responsibility for
That's why I didn't send this to the lumberjack.
Now these books here, they're $10, and normally 14 plus tax. They were donated by the author. He came to our campus and made a speech. It's all about like instead of just focusing, on how the towers going to fall, it kind of goes along the tangent of like how our government was complicit and they allow these terrorists to come into the country, and that they also have a history of protecting them. Like there was this guy who investigated 2 of the terrorists that were put on the front page for the 19 hijackers. 10 months before 9/11,
I have like
he
an
reported
acid
the
feeling in
FBI.
my
Then after
stomach
9/11, he's like, "What the hell?" I reported them. He said, "Oh, we didn't know anything," because they don't want to see. Oh, we knew there was going to be a terrorist attack. And then this guy was actually poisoned and killed for his report.
Really?
Yeah, so he's like someone like me, he's a little older guy, but I mean, he had a report he was presenting to Congress, and then they screwed him.
Well, I'm really not trying to still going at it.
I'm pissing off a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are pissed, and I'm already hearing about it, so I'm like, well, I might as well just keep fucking going, full steam ahead. Why do I fucking, I'm not going to back down.
It's really not about
slander me or say that I'm nuts or like, oh, they don't even talk about what I'm talking about. They just say, oh,
It's not about this.
But yeah, man. Yeah, dude, please fucking show support when you hear people talking shit. It's like, no, we're talking about real shit. They can look it up themselves. Don't just fucking plug your ears and walk around.
Myself, actually.
But yeah, man, you grab like bumper stickers and stuff. These are what we're selling. But, and then this is, I think this is Zeitgeist.
I was talking about decisions that you made.
Yeah, this is a DVD copy if you want to watch it with friends. It's nice. It's a lot better visually than watching.
Student body president, Terra Rentz these decisions. So you spoke about those things. It's all public stuff.
See, the thing is, though, there's context in it that you guys don't find here.
Okay, so whatever. You are a public employee. You work for the government. That's how
I
it
know,
works.
but I'm telling you, as someone who's potentially might be representing students, you owe students on campus the respect and the courtesy to inform them when you're going to be bad-mouthing them in a public forum. They need to be able to respond to those things. Whether being, it's one thing if you print something, because that means someone can open it up at the same time everyone else is reading it, and then you draft a response. But if you're in here in the quad and you're going to be dogging on
The reason why I said
someone in student government, someone in a student program, someone in charge of anything in the community, you owe them the respect to let them know about those people. And it's very expensive and very disheartening to see that you wouldn't even think about doing that thing. Especially if you, who I have to sit and work with on a regular basis, that is completely unprofessional. Completely unprofessional. In any way, shape, or form. I think you have a right to express your opinion.
How do you feel about the
prepared. I mean, I didn't have anything prepared.
Did you hear what I was talking about with that stuff?
No, because I did not come out here. I did not realize you guys were I didn't think about copyright policy.
The only thing I can do is,
Alright, cool.
this was what I
When you
was going to
leave
say
again,
to
sorry.
Like in a couple days. I'm not sure for sure. Not tonight.
I'll try and
I
swing
read all
by
sections of this, but I didn't
tomorrow
see
probably.
I'll let you know at Kyle's house maybe tonight or something.
Alright, maybe after my normal meeting.
No.
Alright, later.
He's courtesy and respect being a co-worker of mine.
co-worker,
You serve on
co-community member. Yeah.
way stronger than a coworker. You should at least give me respect before.
Dude, I can help format
in front of an entire campus.
your presentation of ideas to make it.
Without providing someone the ability to respond.
Well, these are just like I'm having a hard time, splitting myself between 3 organizations and trying to do my schoolwork, which usually takes the back burner, and then setting it up myself too.
Yeah, I mean there should be like the same with people that are working on because presentations are really important when you're expressing ideas, and considering half the people are smoked when they're walking around.
What about a university mentor? Is it okay to take them down?
You know, quite frankly, I have a general feeling that
Yeah, no, I'd like, you want to swap info?
Yeah.
before you take them down.
I got, no,
I am pretty busy myself. I'm starting a club and everything, but I think that there's information out there that would be important for people to get to keep their eyes open and their ideas so they can start to think for themselves about things.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trying to
So I'm
break
not trying to tell
people.
people how it is, I'm just trying to tell them what I know.
Not once, come into my office.
Trying to break any of the box that people have been kind of trapped
I thought that we had a pretty nice 2-hour conversation.
Yeah, now it's about the things
The way
that
we
we
express
work on
ourselves,
to
people
become stronger
are.
as a leader on this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. I took that on my own initiative to just go ahead and spread the word. I mean, weren't you sitting right here on Friday and you told me to write a letter to the student newspaper? You know what? That's what I did. All weekend I wrote a nice little letter to the student newspaper, mostly about copyright laws and how administrators are fucking students.
I think you should, Mr.
Everyone's life is structured.
But everything I was talking about kept leading back to how the student government, the student body president is responsible for some of this.
Right, and as
Complicated
someone
ideas that like scares people.
Yeah, I mean, I jump around and stuff. I mean, we just kind of figured out what we were doing last night at like 8 o'clock now.
because when you sat down for your interview for a position on council,
It crashes like mad on me.
you did not bring
So
up.
I was like getting nothing
You and I
done.
have never
But
I think the way for my club, when I'm going to have little club gatherings and stuff, I'm going to call music and get a microphone and just say one idea.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's similar advice I got from someone actually. It was like
Michael, all I'm saying is you can send that letter in now because what was said is said. But
well, the thing is, the reason why I said
he was
it and I didn't
for
print it is because
this
when
girl
something's printed and sent in and it's published on the
to be on the board,
newspaper
those other girls were
website,
like,
that
oh,
sticks
maybe
there
do something
forever.
else.
You can look at school newspaper and flip through everything.
Pushed him
I have
off.
the ability to
It was super shady.
comment that's made in the public forum that I would not even.
I think
Yeah,
it's
so I mean, I talked to him because I was like, dude, I got your opinion. I know you got fucked
I'm not
over.
going to.
That's
I'm not.
what I'm saying.
That's
Like,
libel. Slander is different than libel.
Focusing.
Well, you know what, slander and libel,
I don't know.
just
I generally do the
I mean,
buckshot
you're
approach,
standing
though.
right
I'm not trying to
happens.
jeopardize your
But yeah,
I
position.
think I do just switch it up a little bit. I mean, like, you could even, like, you have the information up here, you could have different outlets of information for people to do research,
I think I
and then
did.
put a more simple version of what you're saying on the
To a very
microphone
small.
that people can understand that are passing by. Like, it'll be something simple and short enough that it'll catch their attention, and if they're intrigued and interested, they'll come in, and if it's something that pisses them off,
It is?
they don't have to
It is
listen
held
to it.
together by students on this campus who chose to take a stand. And you might
Yeah,
not
one
agree
of
with
the
that.
things I want to work on too, help me with the formatting of that too, is like, you know, how we made this little thing to hand out today. And it's like,
That's my
it
only
was
thing.
double-sided,
And
but
you
some of them
print
didn't
that
print
what you
double-sided because the computer's
And-
schizophrenic.
See, this shit's gonna make people so paranoid.
So next time I come out here, I
Look
want
at
to
that
speak
first
freely,
line.
and I'll go
Honestly,
ahead and
okay,
notify
honestly, I
anybody
used
who
to
I
be
might
really
speak
paranoid
freely
when I
about.
spoke.
All I'm saying
They should come.
You're preyed upon for your purchasing habits. People are
Started
gonna
to say it
and they're
polite.
gonna like, they're gonna trip out.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, like, I got some people that are like, "Oh, dude, that's totally how it is," and like, "Thanks for saying how it is." But then there's the other people that don't understand. Yeah, yeah, and then the people that don't really know and they have different ways of
because
absorbing.
right now you completely destroyed your
Yeah.
which means
How are you? It'd probably be
I can help
educational.
right over here what you're talking about. I'm in this class and administration. And one of the things we've learned about recently is eye recognition
For the
software.
students,
Like
not for
recognizes facial expressions and stuff like
Yeah, and face fingerprinting and stuff.
that. Well, they can tell by the dilation of the eyes and also by the expression is whether you're squinting or how your muscles of your face are moving. They can tell what a person is emotionally going through at that moment. And then what the cameras do in the stores that they're starting to work on this technology
You did though.
is that they actually
I'm having a
photograph.
really hard time focusing on what you're saying right now. There's a lot of energy that is kind of shutting off everything else. Sorry, it's okay. Here, let's step
Yeah, so I was
aside for a
thinking
minute so we can
No inflationary protections.
concentrate.
before you go and smear your facts all over the campus. All I'm saying is you owe people more respect than that. And I thought you had more respect than that. And it is severely disappointing, severely insulting that you would even remotely think that.
I remember the other day we had an interview for the public relations position. And I don't know yet what happened with that. I mean, you called and left a message. I don't know if that's on or not still.
Bring it in.
That's not mine. I don't know if it's on or not.
It's
still.
Jason's, and quite frankly, I don't care if it's on or not because I don't care.
Yeah. So just so you know, what we talked about out here that you didn't know, you didn't see, because all you saw was the last 3 minutes of what we were saying had to do with blank CDs being sold at the bookstore. Do you understand about it? I know you don't care about this stuff.
And quite frankly, I give little to your opinions, and quite frankly, you have no right to hold any AS stuff up here with your 911Truth stuff whatsoever.
That wasn't mine.
It's not going in my pocket anymore.
Okay. This is actually what I was showing off here, was how the bookstore sells blank CDs and computers and thumb drives and teaches you how to burn CDs and DVDs, and when the new blank Blu-rays come out, then people are going to be able to burn and share 50 gigs at a time.
I'm not here debating. I'm talking about preserving. I'm talking about public slander of another student here on this campus and how that is a complete lack of responsibility and respect on your side. And you need to change that if you're planning on doing that. Now, I will not be here. So quite frankly, I don't give that big of a fuck what you choose to do with things. And if students come up against you or not. But I would hope that if you want to stand up and actually be the leader for these students, that you can at least start showing students respect. You have
Yeah, I am respecting students. I'm letting them know about this fucked up shit that's going on right
you're
now.
not respecting students.
I think that I've only given disrespect to one student, and that's
You
you.
know what?
And that's because of the decisions that you make. I'm
You have a
not.
responsibility to come and talk to me about that.
Okay, I thought that we were trying for that, like that you were going to help me get on student council and that, you know, that all that type of stuff. That all just kind of faded away. Oh, you're not ready. You should be on committees. You should be a lobbyist for the cause. You know what? Lobbyist for the cause, right here. I'm not paid by anybody to do this.
You're right. You're not paid by anybody.
Not a single person pays me anything. I pay in so that I can do this.
Whatever you want to do, but I'm just saying that if you want to lead these students next year, you need to start showing respect to those students and give them that ability.
Okay.
You owe them that. You owe all of us that. And you might say, I don't owe anybody anything, but you know what? If you want to step into that position, you do.
I owe over 7,000 students.
The ability and the right to fight for their own causes and the ability and right to be
Sure.
respected in the public forum.
Okay.
You owe them that.
Yeah.
And you know what? If someone comes out and openly is you know, being disrespectful to students or to information or things along those lines, yeah, I feel, especially if you're a public official, you should be able to call them out. But quite frankly, there is a certain thing that the biggest tactic that the administration has on students is divide and conquer. If you jump into that to help divide students further by alienating one of their student leaders, you have helped their cause. Michael, it's respect.
Divide and conquer, I don't think that has anything to do with this.
It has a lot to do with it.
It's all about
If you've been on
unity
this
and
campus for a little bit more than a year,
decentralization.
you might have seen that divide and conquer is one of the #1 tactics used by the administration, the CSUC, and the state of
Well,
California.
this semester is something different. It's called copyright infringement enforcement.
That's not the only thing that the administration is doing now.
Well, do you understand the funding implications that have to do with copyright infringement enforcement? So maybe you should hold a public forum about that. Why haven't you already?
Because there are bigger issues than copyright infringement.
Really? Is there really though?
Yes, there
But this
really are
entire
bigger
campus,
issues.
the faculty is paid to make sure that you don't plagiarize and that you synthesize, and the administrators are now paid to enforce copyright regulations. That's really all that they're going to be here for.
It's not the only thing they're here
In
for.
fact, yeah. In fact, their jobs are going to be replaced by software applications. I've seen it happen at other schools.
You know what? If they're, that just shows you the lack of integrity of the system if they can replace a human being with a
I
software.
really do have a problem with hierarchy structures.
And that's fine. But I'm not here to debate you about copyright laws. I'm talking about general respect for your community.
Okay.
And you owe them that. And that's all I'm going with. And if you want to come in and set up a meeting and talk about copyright laws,
I'd love to. Yeah.
we can do that.
I thought we had a meeting. Like we had an interview. Yeah, for the public
For a
relations.
job.
Manager. Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
but there was no need to interview you for that job because based upon your resume and what we were looking for the job, you did not have the specific requirements that we were
But
looking for.
you scheduled an interview time with me.
I scheduled an interview time with you, and then I looked at the other
Are
applications.
you aware of California labor laws and like all
You know
these types
what?
of things?
Hold labor laws on you, Michael. Hold them.
No,
Go
I
and see
didn't.
how far that
Instead,
takes
I came out and spoke in a public forum. I didn't even mention that. All I mentioned was your decisions that you made about student per diem. That's what I was talking about.
That's fine.
Budget decisions.
All I'm telling you is I don't care what you mention there, but you owe student leaders on this campus the respect and the ability to come and listen to your opinions at least. Because as students, we don't have staff as much that the administration has or huge paychecks to cover our backs. No, we
Okay.
have networking.
So instead we have to instead of you know being defeated, instead of winning and taking control, instead we're just going to give in.
It's not giving in to
It's
notify
not?
another community member.
No. I'm talking about you're always talking about working with the administration.
I'm talking about working with people. This is our community. You cannot alienate members.
But what we're talking about is people who work in a union or work in a structure where they're paid to hold up a certain value, and you're talking about working with that value.
You're not working with that value. You're working with the individuals.
Okay.
You cannot win awards just fighting against people. You have to come together and forming coalitions of
That's like the idea.
Yeah.
It's a holistic view to keeping the strength of
So like the whole campus community is one thing, and the student community is a different thing because there's other unions on campus.
That's
Right?
very true.
And then
Yes.
there's other people who just get paid enough money so that they uphold certain policies, and if they don't, then they lose their jobs. So their job is to uphold those policies, right?
Yes.
Like police,
Yes.
right? Or administrators.
And we work with police, and we work with administrators, and we work with student groups, and that's the responsibility of someone.
So
who's
when
been stepping in the position that you
they
are
cross the
representing
line,
to.
when they cross the line of freedom of speech, when they cross the line of enforcing freedom of speech, that's a problem, right?
Well, then you need to address it with those individuals.
directly? You want me to go just talk to Butler and be like, I don't think that your CSA thing is very good. I thought that I made a nice address to the student council one day.
You should just go and set up a meeting and talk to Butler. Because quite frankly, Jason will probably tell you this, standing here and ranting in the quad is not the best way to do it.
Of course not. Of course not.
Well then go and set up meetings with people. Do your footwork. Do some work. You do a lot of it and you're good at it. So maybe you should step up to the plate and set up those meetings.
I was hoping that you were gonna jump on board with this and
Michael, how am I gonna jump on board with your crazy harebrained radical fucking schemes right now? You cannot sit down and come up with a straight
This was Jason's stuff here, all this stuff.
Well,
this is all Jason. This is what I had.
But when you stand up here and form paired with that, that's what you're going to be tied with. So if you don't agree with that, I recommend not standing with it.
I think that everybody should be able to speak freely. And,
I completely agree with you that people should speak freely. But I'm telling you, you owe people on this campus at least the respect to let them
But you're
know.
just talking about yourself when you say that.
Because I'm the one you decided to attack today.
Those are
But what about
fundraiser.
the
Everything else is free. But these are we're selling for $10. The author came here on our campus last Wednesday. It's about government complicity. Thanks for talking.
So
What's
like
your
the
name
record
again, sir?
labels, do you think I should just go and talk to
Later,
the top officials? of
It's
record
about
labels?
government complicity and their relationship with hijackers and terrorists and terrorist organizations.
Okay, so
'Cause this
record
is
labels, part of
you
our
could talk about
community
9/11
right now.
and how the towers fell all day,
Software
but this is
labels,
about the
record
history
labels,
of
Microsoft,
federal involvement
Adobe.
with these people, and it's heavily documented.
People on this campus.
So it's like a new way,
Is there
take
money interest in people on this campus?
Yeah, Sander Hicks. He's got a website, sanderhicks.com.
Software on this campus and people who use software.
Yeah, I can write it down for you.
An actual living, breathing person who's a member of our campus community.
Okay.
You need to draw a
This was,
distinction
what we were
between
talking about
software and a person.
Surveillance on campus
I'm-
and mischief,
I am
corruption,
having
and lack of
problems with
oversight.
that
And they want to
software.
see everything that we do, but we don't know anything they do.
Because sometimes I
That's
get
like
really
not
mad
right.
at software,
It's hypocritical.
and in
Thanks for
reality,
checking it
I'm
out.
just getting mad at the person. Right?
I'm done here, Max.
I know.
I just want to say, if anyone knows, if anyone who wants to buy a brand new notebook, it's an HP.
You're a little late for making a public announcement, dude. You've already done that.
Notebook, what is it?
It's a brand new.
Try Craigslist.
What, how much?
Compact V6700
Well, if you want to give me your number and write that model number down, I'll check it out.
Okay.
I always
It's
need,
on the internet for about $1,500.
I always need
I
media
also
stuff.
see
So
it less.
put your stuff down, I'll check it out.
Hey,
How's it going, man?
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock's normal tonight, and Thursday at 7 will be 911Truth. I didn't really focus too much on anything announcement because you're going off on tons of shit.
Is normal for legalization?
Yeah, for reform, we're not forcing anybody to smoke a joint,
Yeah.
It's just like, if people are going to smoke, we shouldn't imprison them in a mass system
Yeah.
and waste our tax dollars on it. And it makes violent criminals because, what does it do? It raises the cost, So, it's more, valuable when it's illegal to grow marijuana because, people aren't going to grow it when it's, super illegal.
the same thing with the quantities of alcohol, yeah.
Yeah, so they set their own market, they regulate it, and that's what it is. And the CIA brought tons of cocaine and stuff to destroy the civil rights movement in this country, and it's things like that have happened.
Yeah,
So same story, different day,
Has this been recording the whole time?
Yeah, dude. She's pissed, dude.
Oh man.
So we can catch her up.
Hey man, do you have Francis? You got a cigarette, man?
You're like, I want to smoke. I'm amped.
Dude, did you hear my shit?
No, dude, I didn't know what you're talking about.
Dude, she fucking she attacked my shit, dude. She's so pissed.
Oh, dude, we gotta have a bout. She's gonna come out. And then next against me, he's gonna be so nuts because she sits right on the room.
Dude, you got fucking, dude, the recruit reporter was here 20 minutes after I called. They sent the Daniel guy.
Yeah, that dude's sick. He covered normal, dude.
Did you tell him about my name and shit, or?
Yeah, I told him our names and he's gonna get it down. He got a picture. He's gonna put it in there. And I told
Dude,
him.
this is front page material right there, don't you think? It's some of the stuff I was saying was stuff people haven't heard on campus yet.
Yeah, I should.
What'd you think? Did you watch my whole speech?
No, I didn't. I watched part of it.
Did you hear me talking about copyright
Well,
laws and stuff?
look up today's date and HSU
Yeah, I did.
and
I
UC
heard
Quad.
about
We'll have this posted online.
Copyright laws and also about tuition.
No, they can share.
Man, so I didn't want to go into things that were bad, and then at the last minute I just fucking.
Well, because I kind of did too.
Yeah, you fucking.
I opened it up.
You opened it up, and I was like, oh shit, give me that
Yeah.
microphone. Hold the microphone for me.
There is something that I'm confused about Ron Paul because, as far as I can tell, he's kind of off about the Federal Reserve things and stuff like that. But I haven't checked him out completely yet.
What do you mean about how he's against Federal Reserve?
No, I mean, in fact, what are you saying about Federal Reserve? What I've learned in macroeconomics and stuff like that about what it's there for and what its purpose is.
And that it was needed in 1912 and they pushed it through in 1913?
I mean, like what they're doing right now, they're injecting it. They're sending everyone $600 this year. You know?
Yeah, that thing.
It's
that's what you buy flat screen TV.
They discovered that the economy is starting to sluggish.
Yeah, the bloated beast is collapsing.
So they're freaking. I mean, the systems are set up to prevent it from slowing down too much, and everyone. So I'm kind of like wondering what's the alternative.
I wish I put this in there. Well, you should look up this thing. It's the Glass-Leach-Bliley Act or something, and it was passed in '99, and it was how the subprime mortgage crisis happened because it changed the laws of regulation for banking systems, and it made it so they could do those zero money down and no interest shit. That's how that happened. That was illegal since 1933, following the Depression. And then this guy, his name's Mr. Wheel, and he was the dude that owns Citibank. He was the chair of Citibank, and a bunch of people were pissed because he's all old and he wouldn't step down. He stayed in the chair. And what he did is he merged his company with another one called Treasury, and they merged, and it was massive and it was illegal. And that happened in '97, and nobody did anything. And then by '99 they passed this act, and it covered their bases, so it made it legal. So they retroactively made something they did illegal legal, and then the same act is being used as justification for information gathering on campuses. And and I mean, I have questions about the security. First of all, it's that's something we didn't really go into. That is they're gathering information, and who knows if it's secure? What happened is their fucking laptop with everybody's social security who was a fucking a veteran, and the guy disappeared. It just, oops, I lost it. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, our information is not secure in government hands, and the fact that they're consolidating this stuff and making it more accessible on our campus is disgusting.
Hey, give me 5 minutes.
All right, man.
Nice talking with you.
Yeah, take it easy. Okay. I'll see you around.
Yeah, that notebook's still sealed. It's still it's still got the plastic seal on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just bought a laptop. It's been.
I don't know what to do with it. I'm thinking about selling it on eBay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I went to eBay and it's so new that there's not even one on eBay.
You couldn't find one on eBay? Wow, that's fine. Cool. All right, well, have a good week, man. Spread the word, the truth.
Yeah, totally.
Bounty on your head. I'm sure that any copyright holder is willing to pay up to 40% in collection fees for monies not paid to those who have been infringed upon. If monies are due, or owed in part to those who rat you out, why do you show the camera in the quad, earphones from the iPod you bought at the bookstore?
Yeah.
Hoodies up through the quad.
All right, cool. No, it's pretty much all we got. We're running out. If you go and throw down, it will go towards more media in the future. Yeah, so I mean, you are relied upon as being an economic factor in everything that goes. You're supposed to be this mass consumer, all the media that you get. And I mean, for stepping outside the box, they're going to have everybody locked into it. And check out what they got in China. I guess they made horror movies are illegal, but you can, they're marketing horror. I mean, you could play World of Warcraft and, do all this violent, gruesome stuff, but it's because you're paying for it and you got an account. But I mean, you can't be charged every time you watch a movie. So I mean, these are these kind of things. They're limiting your amounts of entertainment, and they're forcing you to rely upon them, the establishment and the elitists. And they want you to spend all your money through them, and anything that goes around them, they're gonna destroy you for it. They can take away your ability to get an education. That's what they're trying to do to me. I might get expelled. And they don't even have proof. So I mean, I don't know how serious off of a limb they're going to go. But they say it's pretty much circumstantial evidence. They say we have a preponderance of evidence. And my conversation when they were investigating me went from, first it was this could be a serious issue, Jason. And then it went to, it's possible that you could get charged, or it's very likely you're going to get charged, or we're going to get your ass. And then I just got a letter in the mail the other day. So I mean, basically.
That could be considered an endowment owned by the students. This is the students' money. This is the $48 fee. It's instructional-related activities fee. Does anybody here in the quad know what the university's endowment is worth right now? Anybody? Does anybody know the university's endowment? No?
Nobody's gonna know.
$23 million. This university has $23 million that it invests. Now I'm wondering, is this money held locally? Is this money held by local banks? Is it invested locally? Or is this money invested in the foreign exchange?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, yeah, these administrators here are acting as law prevention for corporations because their jobs are put in line. And I mean, the same thing goes with, having to bow down for federal law for cannabis on this campus. Like, you're not supposed to medicate if you have a 215, and this is a state institution, so that's a massive fallacy. They've been watching to certain degrees. These cameras are all new, and then the security client, or it's a computer security agent. So you have agents like the Matrix and shit running around your computer now, or checking and taking snapshots of what you have. Right now, there's something called the North American Union. Our sovereignty has been merged with Mexico and Canada, and this has been going around past the Congress. The president did himself in 2005, and then what they want to do as part of this is security prosperity partnership for the Americas. They want to impose a carbon tax on everyone. So they want you to pay for carbon when it's like there's deforestation of forests that they don't take into account for this glacial melting. The sun is getting hotter. There's fluctuation in solar activity. So the reason why they're being made is it's taxpayer dollars going into the green movement and these bullshit solutions. And we gotta really realize is that government isn't going to help us. They haven't been doing anything for us in the first place. And Al Gore's inconvenient truth, give me a break, dude. Don't believe Al Gore. He ran against Bush in 2000 and gave up. He was a lame duck. He helped impose the Bush presidency. He let the Supreme Court pick him, and he didn't raise a fight. He didn't do anything about it. And so this Inconvenient Truth movie, check it out in the UK, they actually said it was propaganda, because it had 9 things it wasn't even really based on. And the last point I'm going to give before I pass it off is there was 15 chapters edited from a UN document that's supposed to be the premier document about climate change and the CO2 stuff. So 15 chapters were removed, and these authors were kept on it like they helped in all these great scientists that helped write it, and they took their names, or took their work out, and they left their names in. Their work that was taken out was saying that the CO2 stuff is still not proven. And that's what that document says in UK. You can't distribute Inconvenient Truth to the schools without telling people that it's not proven yet. It's absolutely not proven. And so yeah, back to all the software stuff, they want to see everything you're doing. They're going to say it's, for virus protection. But people like me, there's this Violent Radicalization, Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act. Anybody that stands outside the box and talks about these things can be considered terrorists. You talk about the Constitution, you talk about the Bill of Rights, and the fact that we're supposed to have freedom in this country, and you can be considered an extremist. But what does Bush do, and what do all these other elitists do? They tell us, hey, we need to, spread freedom and democracy and blow up friggin' countries and then rebuild them. Who's getting paid for reconstruction? And another thing that's interesting about all this monitoring of our software, and it's getting hotter, the polar ice caps on Mars are melting, for God's sakes. So, is our CO2 causing that? And it really is. CO2 so bad. I mean, it's what plants breathe, for God's sakes. You got mercury you spew, lead, phosphorus, all these different toxic elements and dyes, and we export labor and processing and production all overseas because it's cheaper to exploit other people's environments. And people that get paid less, and it's all neocolonialism because we've destroyed and ruined these countries internally in so many ways so we can more easily exploit them. And then so now, they're telling you that you got to pay for how much carbon you use when there's way more at hand. First, the carbon is, this Focus the Nation thing. Check out my Indoctrinate the Nation piece in the Lumberjack from this last week. They want you to focus on carbon, and carbon is so irrelevant. Really, it's just something they want to measure, that everybody has a carbon footprint and that they want to charge you for it. And so Barack Obama just pushed this. He's part of something called the Council on Foreign Relations. Council on Foreign Relations is ridiculous. And Barack Obama, his foreign policy advisor, helped start the Trilateral Commission that wants to split the world into 3 pieces. And people that call people douchebags without having a real friggin' conversation don't know anything, and they're just ignorant haters. So whatever. And they spread CFLs. Yeah, put your earphones back in and spread CFLs on campus. They got these carbon fluorescent light bulbs you may have seen. They've got lead, phosphorus, mercury. There's nowhere you can dispose of the waste. There's a lady given a $2,000 bill for breaking one in her house and reporting it to the authorities in Maine. You can look that up. And they want to charge you for your carbon, and then they're saying these CFLs are supposed to be a solution. Well, the CFLs aren't a solution because they're toxic, they're polluted. 80% of them are made in China. And internet and file sharing is they're putting in all these big fiber optic networks and expanding our internet usage. And what they want to do is there's branches of information technology services that are created so that they ensure that these things are used legally. And I mean, really, this music is ours. Freedom of speech, really. I mean, all this copywriting of software, you should pay to go see your artists in public, not have to pay for every single song every time you listen to it and all this ridiculous stuff, and then be policed for something that's really not even an enforceable law. But that's what they're trying to change. They're going to make it they can monitor everything that you do on your computers in your house and in campus, and they're going to collect information information you on campus and then give that information to the federal government. They already do it. I've seen an FBI agent in student affairs. I got his number. You want to call him and ask him questions on what he was doing here on campus? Let me know. I'll give it to you. His name was Stuart Logan. He was from D.C. and he was here collecting information on students they could call extremists. So please be wary. This is going to be Mike. He's going to talk some more. We got a bunch of little CDs we're throwing out because they help you do file downloading and stuff, and then they want to police you at the same time.
They don't help you download files. They help you share files.
Oh yeah.
Imagine the library hiring 20 security guards and charging you for access to books, like tuition that you pay now, right? Then penalizing you for unauthorized use of copyrighted material. Get ready, middle to lower class American-born citizens enrolled in public colleges. You are becoming the economic engine for those who are willing to uphold and enforce taxation on these students. By standing up for your right to a free education makes you a corporate terrorist. Stolen music, bunk software, burned DVDs, and printed book violations will put a financial